What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you guys some building tips that I use in my cities on Mini Cities Tycoon. So some of the tips that I showed in my last video, I'll probably be saying in this one as well, just to make one full complete video. So if you do see the building tips that I already used in my last video, you can just skip around if you need to. So I would say the biggest tip I can give right off the bat is don't place items and delete them needlessly. So as you can see, once you start placing more things, everything starts to get really expensive. Now I have a bunch of money because I do AFK. Pretty much what I'm saying is just don't place items like roads like this and then delete them, because what'll end up happening is this number will never go down even if you delete items. So even if I take these items and I delete them, when I go back in, you can see the price of the road is still the same. So you can see it's 507 million. I place a road, and now it's 507.2 million. If I delete this road, it's still at 507.2 million. So that's definitely my biggest tip, is just to not accidentally place too many items needlessly. Make sure you have an idea of what you're trying to do before you actually place things. So for the second tip, this is something I really didn't even realize until just recently actually, but if you go into your build menu, and there's actually two things. If you see this icon right here, it will actually expand the menu a little bit. So pretty much it'll just make it easier to scroll throughout here instead of having to scroll really far like this. So definitely use this button right here. It's in all the menus. It's just this little box with arrows around it. Then also, there's another expanded menu right here on a bunch of different items that I had no idea. So you can see, like, on the avenue there's one, on the highway there's one, on this highway there's one, the Bay Bridge. If we go into nature, on the tree, and then on the tiles here, there's just a bunch of different ones, and I didn't even know this until recently, and I feel kind of dumb, but there is a lot of items that actually do this. So just keep that in mind, because even I had no idea about this. Maybe there's other people that don't also, so I'm just saying. So for my third tip, I would say rotating buildings and nature themed items to make everything look a little bit random helps a lot when you're doing builds. For example, if I take a bunch of trees, kind of self-explanatory, if I take a bunch of trees and I place them all the same way, you can see it's kind of obvious that it's just a straight line. But if you take it and you rotate it, just hit R every time you place one, just like that, it's a little bit better looking. You know, even if you don't have your grid on whatever, or you don't have disable collisions, it still looks a bit better when you just rotate it a little bit, because it makes it look a little bit more random instead of all one pattern like this. Now this also works really well with buildings. If I go over to my city, you can see most of them are placed in different directions. So a lot of the times, if I want houses or something, I'll have them all facing one way. So, because this is a neighborhood, most times in neighborhoods, all the houses usually face the same way. Like these ones all are facing the same way. This one's facing the same way. These are all facing the road. But as far as, like, for example, over here with these buildings, I have a lot of them placed differently than one another. As you can see, they're all placed opposite. So like these ones are facing this way, these ones are facing this way, these ones are facing this way, and that one's facing this way. It's just the randomness adds a lot more to the city than just having everything in one same direction. It just makes it look a little more cohesive and natural, in my opinion. So for the fourth tip, I would say place trees in any open areas that you have, even if they're small areas like this. Now you could place houses back here if you really wanted to, or I could place, like, you know, businesses back here. But just as far as making it seem a little more realistic, I liked to have these as just nature themed items here instead of buildings, because I feel like you wouldn't really have a business, like you wouldn't have a giant, you know, office right behind a neighborhood like this. It just doesn't really make sense. So for a lot of the neighborhoods, I'll use trees and rocks and stuff for open areas. And I think it just makes everything look a lot more cohesive and a lot more nice. Especially with open areas like this, you could add different things back here, but if you don't know what to add, like you could add different items. Like I have a bunch of mountains, trees, rocks, and I think it just fills up the area pretty nicely. So another thing I will say is use height elevations for sure. Now this game is a little bit harder because you can't like morph the terrain into what you want. There are these blocks, but I've never used them because it just looks very out of place. So that's why instead I'll use mountains. Now the cool thing with mountains is you can put roads on them if you have the disable collisions pack. So if I just take this road here and I lift it up, you can place the roads technically like on the mountain. Now obviously you'd have to do this really well to make it look nice, but I'd like to try and mess with that at some point. But another thing is also making sure you have like bridges and stuff throughout your cities, even in places you necessarily don't need them. Like right here, I didn't need to have this bridge, but I felt like having this elevation here and then this bridge will take you back to the part of the city over here. I just felt like it was a nice little addition, and I think it works out pretty well. So for tip number 6, I would say is to plan out your roads and everything before you start adding buildings. I brought this up in my last video, but putting roads down is a lot nicer to work with than just placing buildings everywhere before you have roads down. Mainly because when you have a bunch of roads placed down, it's easy to fill in an area, whether it's with buildings or trees, but when you have just buildings placed everywhere, it's very hard to work around the buildings in my opinion. Now everybody has different ways they do it, so maybe it's just me, but that's just how I am personally. I just like to put roads down everywhere before I even start placing buildings in some areas. Another thing I like doing is adding different like districts to my entire map. So for example, this area over here is like, I guess the town area, or it's for like the middle class people. So it's just a nice little town, nothing crazy. And then over here is more for like a high-end, you know, business district, especially like over here, big like upper class area, you know, lots of buildings, same thing. This whole area is just more of like an upper class area, I feel like. So now this tip might not be for everybody, maybe it's just me. I know this isn't really a super realistic looking game, but I try and make it as realistic as possible. So I like to have different like factories like dotted around the area. Like this is a like nuclear power plant near the water, typical of what you would see with a power plant, usually near a big body of water somewhere. I like to have bridges actually elevated over the lake or river that's in the middle, so maybe boats can come through underneath if they need to. I also like having, like the other tip, different districts, so having like a smaller town, then having a bigger city area. I think it adds a lot more realism and just makes it look a lot nicer in my opinion. So for this tip, you know, you kind of might have seen it when I've been walking around my city, jumping around, but using different roads for different areas does help a little bit. So for example, like in this area, the main road around everything is like a yellow lined road, but then the little roads that are in the apartment complex area here are all regular roads with no lines on them. It's just kind of a nice little way of separating different areas besides just having yellow lined roads everywhere. So when you see this area, you kind of know, oh, okay, this is like the apartment complex instead of just attached to the main road. Now for this area over here, I kind of did the same thing, but since this is more of an agriculture area or a lower class area, I have a lot of dirt roads around here. I think they fit a lot better than just having regular roads here. And for this last tip, you don't necessarily need to do this, but I think it's just cool to have, is adding a freeway or highway around the entire map. As you can see, this highway will go up into this bridge, which this bridge will then take you into the city area, and then this one will take you back down here so you can be in here. And yeah, I think that's about it. I kind of wanted to make this video shorter so that there wasn't a lot of mindless talking, and kind of just wanted to give you guys some quick tips on making your city look a lot better. Pretty much just a short video, just wanted to show off some tips and tricks that I use in my builds. Yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.